It's round 2 of the college football playoff, and the Georgia Bulldogs have entered the chat, taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the All-State Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day. Here's how I think it's going to play out. I think we're going to start this thing in the same place that everybody else wants to start, the most obvious thing, and that is that both teams are very physical. They're built to be physical, and that's how they play the game. When we look at Notre Dame, what do we know? The last time we saw them, they took on an Indiana team that was number 1 against the rush in college football this season, at least statistically. And Notre Dame was able to hit them for some big plays in the run game, consistently try to run the football, and do enough in the passing game to get the victory. They were at home. They had the home field advantage, but with the crowd behind them. And, of course, the weather made it a little more challenging for both teams that night. But what exactly do we know when we look a little bit deeper about Notre Dame? Could you tell me who Notre Dame's backup quarterback is? When I asked myself that question, I didn't know. I had to go look it up. And you might say, well, that's the same for every team. But I don't know that that holds true. When you look at Notre Dame, what do we know about Riley Leonard? We know that he's dangerous with his feet and he's a capable passer, but the Notre Dame offense hasn't been extremely explosive this year in the passing game. We know that they consider themselves to be very physical along both lines of scrimmage, and they play really good defense. Some people throw them around as being one of the top 5 defenses in the country this season. We've seen that play out. They were able to shut down the high-powered Indiana offense and get the win in the first round of the playoffs. But when we think about what they are on offense, when we think about Riley Leonard, and keep in mind, I couldn't tell you who their backup quarterback is. If that's the situation and we know that he's a runner, then is it fair to say that if everything is on the table in a game where it's a one-game season, you must win to advance, does that mean that you can take Riley Leonard's average rushing statistics over the course of the season and then cut them in half because they're going to try to keep him in the game and they don't trust whoever they have at backup? Or does it mean that they're going to do whatever they have to do to win that game and worry about the next game the next time? I can see an argument either way. And the same thing holds true for Georgia, by the way. But in the case of Notre Dame, given the fact that they are such a run-dominant team and they can flat run the football, I'm going to lean on the side that whatever we think Riley might do with his legs in a called run game against the Dawgs, I think they're going to pare that back a little bit. And I think what you're going to see is that they believe their running backs are better as a running back than their quarterback is as a running back. So do I think Riley Leonard poses a threat with his legs and being able to make plays off schedule? Absolutely. He's shown us that all year. But I don't think you're going to see, at least the game plan coming into the game, Riley Leonard out there running the ball 20, 30 times. I just don't think that's what they believe they're going to have to do. So what does Georgia have to do to counteract that? Well, clearly, you have to shut down the run game. If Georgia can manage to do to Notre Dame what they have been able to do to the other best teams that they have faced this year and slow down or essentially cut off their running game and make them one-dimensional, I think that swings this game in Georgia's favor in a big, big way. Keep in mind, though, that you say, well, Notre Dame, they rushed for a bunch of yards against Indiana. But did they, though? What they actually did was hit one big play, tremendous play by a tremendous back, Jeremiah Love, a 98-yard touchdown run to give them the lead early, and then they were able to build on that moving forward. The rest of that game, Notre Dame didn't run it quite so well. They had 34 carries against Indiana other than that one play, the 98-yard touchdown run. And over those 34 carries, they only averaged 2.8 yards per carry. If the Dawgs can hold Notre Dame to a similar number, I feel good about Georgia's chances in this game. So both teams think they're physical. Notre Dame certainly can run the rock. That's their identity. Physical, we're going to run it, and we're going to do what we need to do in the pass game to win. We're going to play great defense. Let's look at Georgia for a second. Georgia all season has been inconsistent. That's a fair statement. And now they've lost their starting quarterback. The guy that I sat here all year and told you was the reason that they won a lot of those games that they had to win along the way. Even though his numbers weren't the same as they were last season, I think Carson Beck and his leadership and his experience All of those things helped Georgia be a better football team this year. Well, now he's out of the picture, and Gunnar Stockton's in the game. So what do we know about Gunnar, and what do we think is going to happen? I think the one thing that the second half against Texas showed us is that we don't know what we don't know, and the coaching staff does. All of us can go back and say, well, he's had, 70 to 80 plays this season. We can make some sort of random judgment off of that if we want to in live game action. But remember, the coaching staff has seen thousands and thousands of reps with Gunnar over the last 3 seasons. And I believe they are fully comfortable with what Gunnar brings to this offense. When I hear the national media talk about this game, they view Gunnar as the weak link in this scenario, or at the very least, the biggest question. The biggest question is fair enough, because none of us know exactly how he's going to respond to being on this stage. But the one thing that they seem to question that I really don't is that Georgia won't be able to do the things offensively that we know them to be able to do, and it's going to look different. I sort of halfway agree with that. I think that they've got it wrong on Gunnar. I think that they think the Dogs went out and picked this cat up off Lumpkin or Millage somewhere and plugged him in to play backup quarterback for the Dogs against Notre Dame. And that's simply not the case. Gunnar Stockton was as highly recruited a quarterback as anybody in recent memory, and he chose to come to play for the Georgia Bulldogs. The kid has skills. He has it about him. All he's ever done is win. And the most telling thing that I think we can take away from the second half of the SEC championship game against Texas is he went out, performed against what has been the most consistent defense in the country this season, and brought the Dogs back to a victory. And how did he do it? Not running gimmicky plays or something that is he's going to run the ball every time he drops back to pass sort of offense. No, they ran the Georgia offense. And that's where I'm hanging my hat on how prepared Gunnar's going to be in this game. I fully believe that Gunnar is ready and able to run the Georgia offense, all of it, the same way that Carson Beck can. And by that, what I mean is he knows how to adjust coverages or protections. He knows how to get them out of a bad play and into a better play. He knows how to make changes to his skill players on hot routes and those sorts of things. He knows how to run the RPO game. He can do everything that Carson Beck can do. The difference is now you have the added advantage of his enhanced mobility. Now, does all this mean that Gunnar's going to go out there and light the world on fire and hang 50 on Notre Dame? No, that's not what it means at all. But anybody who expects that Georgia's going to come out there and be a one-dimensional running team with Gunnar Stockton behind center, you are in for a rude awakening. Gunnar can flat spin the bean, and what's more than that, he makes good decisions with the football. Now, again, this brings back into the question experience and live reps against a quality team. All we know is what he's shown, and what he's shown us is that he can make good decisions against Texas and win a game when he had to be the guy to win the game. We know he's a natural leader for his team. We know that all he's ever done is go out there and win. And with the support of the team around him and the belief from the coaching staff getting him a good plan to be the most effective he can be in this game, I feel really good about what Gunnar Stockton is going to be able to do for the Georgia Bulldogs. Because the bottom line is you're going to have to be explosive in this game. Here's the nugget in another area where I differ from the national media and what I think is going to happen. This game is going to be physical. It is going to be fought at the lines of scrimmage. To that point, Georgia is bigger than Notre Dame is. So they are going to do everything that they can to protect Gunnar and give him the best opportunity to be successful here. There must be explosive plays if Georgia or Notre Dame are going to win this game. I don't think Georgia's going to sit on the football. I think they're going to let Gunnar throw it down the field. I think you're going to see the ball in the air in NOLA on New Year's Day against Notre Dame. Now, does that mean he's going to throw it 50 times? No, it doesn't. But it means, like I said earlier, that he is going to run the full Georgia offense. And to put a finer point on that, I expect that you're probably going to see Gunnar Stockton throw the football down the field a few times for a couple of reasons. One, to loosen up the Notre Dame defense, show them that you're going to do it, that you're not afraid to do it. But two, If you're going to throw the football with a younger quarterback who's maybe not as experienced, where do you want to put it? Putting the ball over the middle of the field in the passing game is the most dangerous thing you can do. So what I think they're going to do is when they want to take shots, it's going to be on the outside. It's going to be down the sidelines, because if you have a young quarterback who misses, you tell him miss out of bounds, save the ball. A punt is a good play. So I just don't think the Dogs are going to sit on the football and try to run it 60 times and beat Notre Dame. I think Gunnar Stockton is ready, prepared, and the game plan is going to be for him to go out there and run the full Georgia offense against Notre Dame. And I think that's one of the things that the national media is missing. I think they're saying they're going to put the reins on Gunnar. I kind of think it's going to go the other way. They're going to let him do everything that the offense and the situation in the game requires. He's been in this system for years. He knows it. He knows how to run it. And the bottom line is, for Notre Dame or Georgia, if you're going to win a college football playoff game, your quarterback has to throw the football. And I think Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo are going to let Gunnar Stockton do that. That's just how I see it playing out. I think Georgia, and I mentioned this quickly a moment ago, I think they are the bigger team. I think they are the more athletic team top to bottom. Now, is that a clear indicator that they're going to go out there and push Notre Dame around? It's not. Notre Dame is a physical team. I have a lot of respect for them and what they do defensively, especially for what they do in the run game, offensively, especially. But they have not played, with all due respect, a schedule or a team the way Georgia has this season. If you look at what they've done this season, they had one SEC school, a Texas A&M team, which proved to be a middle-of-the-pack SEC team by the end of the season. Of course, we all know about the loss to NIU, inexplicable. But then they're facing the likes of Purdue, bad. Miami of Ohio, not good. Louisville, average. Stanford, bad. A Georgia Tech team that is pretty physical. They played Navy. They played Army. They played a middle-of-the-pack USC team. They played Virginia and Florida State. When you look down that schedule, you might be able to find 3 games, maybe 4, that were taxing with the level of athletes that were anywhere near what they're going to face when they come up against the Georgia Bulldogs. Again, does this mean that Notre Dame shouldn't even show up? No. I think Notre Dame can absolutely beat the Georgia Bulldogs on New Year's Day, but I don't think they will. I think when you take all of these things together, when you take all of the intangibles and all the things that we think we know going into this game, I think Georgia has the edge. I think Georgia, based on what we've seen in the media from the days that they've been down in New Orleans, from the 2 teams, I think that Georgia is the more relaxed team here. And why shouldn't they be? They've been on this stage a lot. Notre Dame is new to this stage. And whether they want to admit it or not, the fact that they're lining up against an SEC team and all that that means to everybody else in the country, when you were able to step up and play the best conference in the land and try to get a victory, it would be a big deal for them. Don't kid yourself and think that that's not what they believe. It is a big deal for Notre Dame to play an SEC team, and if they win it, it would be a huge deal for them to be able to say that they did so. So yeah, on some level, I think that might create a little bit more tension for Notre Dame, that and being new to the stage. And again, Georgia is comfortable here. They have the bigger, more athletic roster top to bottom. And I know for a fact that the Georgia Bulldogs are more resilient and battle-tested than what we have seen from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish this year. Thanks to the schedule that they've played, thanks to all the injuries the course of the season that they've had to overcome, I just think Georgia gets the edge there. And here's the other thing that sort of leaked out in the last few days from the media availabilities down in New Orleans. When people ask Notre Dame about, well, what about this defense that Georgia's going to bring to the field? What about this offensive line, this massive group of humans that Georgia's going to come to the field with? What about players like Jalen Walker and Michael Williams? The Notre Dame players, to a man, said something very similar, which is, well, we have played good players this year. We have played good linebackers this year. We have played good offensive lines this year. And they have, in a couple of occasions. But the one thing they haven't done is seen anything like what they're going to see when the Georgia Bulldogs take the field on New Year's Day in New Orleans. When the red and black steps on the field against that gold and blue, they're going to see something different, something they haven't seen all year. So, in terms of intangibles, I think the Dogs have the clear advantage in this game too. At the end of the day, I think that's what it's going to come down to. Who makes the more explosive plays, who doesn't beat themselves, and who wins that battle of intangibles. For my money, that's the Georgia Bulldogs. Again, I have full faith in Gunnar Stockton to roll out there and get this job done. I think the coaches know exactly what they have in that young man, and I think they're going to let him take this offense and do what he can with it. Now, Gunnar's still making his first start in the brightest of lights. If he goes out there and plays poorly, all of this goes out the window. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Georgia is going to slow down that Notre Dame run game. And when they do that, they're going to put Riley Leonard in a position that he's going to have to throw the football. That doesn't scare me as a Georgia Bulldog fan. I think Georgia is going to line up offensively, try to establish the run game. Gunner's going to be a part of that. But I absolutely think that they're going to let him put the football in the air, and I think he's going to take more shots than maybe most people think he's going to take. At the end of the day, I think Georgia's too much for Notre Dame. They win, they cover, and if a break goes right here or there, I really don't think this is going to be close. I think the Dogs could win by 10, maybe 14 if things break the right way. But either way, that's my take. I got the Dogs beating Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl and advancing in the college football playoff. Go Dogs!
Told them, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.